What's up, guys, and welcome to the Nice Catch Podcast, where we are here to catch you up on all the latest football news and analysis. I'm Baden.
And I'm Hank. Today, we're here to catch you up on all of the NFL free agency news. We're talking about the winners and the losers, the best deals, everything that might be going on, and everything that has been going on. All of the above, the trades, the best signings, everything. And I want to jump in with, I think, what was the biggest move of NFL free agency, which was a trade, 2 first-round picks for Max Crosby, and then it didn't happen. I was sitting there. What a strange sports night that was. I'm working, and I'm getting a lot of texts about some basketball game, and I look, and Bam Adebayo dropped 83 points.
Yeah.
And the USA lost, I think, the same night that we lost to Italy in baseball.
Yep.
What? And then Geno Smith gets traded back to the Jets, best quarterback the Jets have had since Geno Smith. And then Adam Schefter reports the Max Crosby trade is nixed because of a physical issue.
Yeah.
So I don't know what your thoughts were with that. That just kind of boggled my mind, seeing a trade of that magnitude, and then it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I really didn't understand that. If it's, I guess, you have clauses in the trades where it's like, we need him to be physically fit, make these standards, for the trade to go through. But, Max Crosby, if it's not like a terrible injury or something, or a terrible, if it's not something that's just absolutely irredeemable, how are you going to let him go? Unless you just, decided, we made a bad decision, let's fail him on his physical, and so we can, we have a reason to not go through with this. Other than that, if there's something wrong with the physical, it's Max Crosby. If you want this guy, get him there. Figure something out. That really, I personally have not heard of something like that happening before. It was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. That was, one of the many moves of a so far pretty crazy NFL free agency. Nothing over the top, we've never seen this before, Michael Parsons trade. Yet, the Max Crosby trade might have been.
Yeah, it could have been,
but lots of little moves that I really liked. One, ironically, team that I think might be the most improved is the Raiders. I thought those 2 first-round picks were going to help them out a lot. Turns out, instead of those, they got Max Crosby back.
Yeah.
But just think about these are the additions that the Raiders are going to get. Tentatively, Fernando Mendoza. Mm-hmm. They've already had Ashton Jeanty, Brock Bowers, and now, again, Max Crosby. They signed Tyler Linderbaum, one of the best offensive linemen, maybe the best center in the NFL, which I don't know why the Ravens ever let him go, but sign him. That'll boost Ashton Jeanty's run game and give Mendoza time in the pocket, finally. Or finally isn't a Raiders quarterback getting time in the pocket. And then they add a lot of really, I think, under-the-radar free agents. Linebackers Nakobe Dean from the Eagles and Quay Walker from the Packers. And then Kwity Paye also. Kwity Paye, defensive end. Mm-hmm. Lots of just defensive depth. And these guys are quality starters on the defense. And they have a new head coach from Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. So I think the one thing the Raiders are lacking to be at least a competent team this year is wide receiver help. Because they have, no wide receivers. I think Trey Tucker is their number 1 wide receiver right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Raiders are the most improved team. That's my number 1 takeaway from free agency so far. What are some of your biggest takeaways so far, Baden?
I think a big winner this offseason so far has been the Texans as well. They have seriously boosted their offensive line. They've signed 2 veteran tackles. A tackle and a guard? Or 2 tackles? they've signed two veteran offensive linemen. They're getting Tank Dell back. Probably that's tentative. But yeah, they're getting Tank Dell back. They made a running back move.
Yeah, they traded for David Montgomery.
Traded for David Montgomery. And so like they've and that's really what here. This is what I'll say. CJ Stroud will have zero excuse at this point. Barring injuries and freak accidents like that, a lot of the things that people pointed to is, okay, well, you can't really blame him. Think about the offensive line. Think about just super inconsistent running back. Think about like Joe Mixon. Where was he the last season? Like we didn't, just very some inconsistency at running back. A lot of injuries with the receivers until the end of the year. So it's like you can point to a few things. Well, at this point, those holes seemingly have been filled to an extent. So I think the Texans are looking scary. They have the best odds. Just recently in the last week, it flipped from the Jaguars to the Texans having the best odds to win the division just after signing those two offensive linemen. So, like, statistically, that seems like that's a big help for them. And so I think the Texans, that's one takeaway I got from free agency, is the Texans are making important moves at this point.
Yeah, I agree. CJ Stroud has not been who he was his rookie year at all.
No.
And the Texans now have debatably the best defense in the NFL. Obviously, there's the Seahawks, and a few other teams that could be up there, if the Steelers actually play like they paid their players to play.
Yeah.
But, doesn't happen in Pittsburgh these days. Another move that I think flew really under the radar is that the Bills traded for wide receiver DJ Moore. This one, I saw it and then didn't really see it again the rest of free agency, not talking about Josh Allen and the Bills getting this wide receiver one, because that's the main thing that the Bills have been lacking. They had Stephon Diggs for a time. That just didn't really work out. Everyone thought it was really working, and it just didn't quite work out. And DJ Moore isn't, wide receiver one for a Super Bowl team exactly. But if the Bills have done what they've done with Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Joshua Palmer, I think that DJ Moore, especially with how dynamic he is with the ball in his hands, with end arounds and jet sweep touch pass kind of things too.
Yeah.
I think he could give the Bills an edge that really helps them get to the next level. We'll see if the Bills can get to the next level, but I think that DJ Moore could be a valuable asset to get them there.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
What's another one you got, Baden? Another of your favorite NFL free agency moves?
I don't know. I have some least.
Yeah.
Some least favorites.
Let's go there.
I like that. If we want to
just
stick on favorites, I don't want to. This is probably the biggest one.
Whatever we want.
I don't want to take one of the more surprising ones, but
take it.
I just remember I was sitting in class.
You look at your phone during class, Baden?
No, actually, no. Well, in some classes, not this class. This is Hebrew. But one of my classmates looks over at me and he goes, he was quiet and he was like, Kenneth Walker just. I was like, what? He's like, Kenneth Walker just Chiefs. I was like, all I heard was Kenneth Walker and Chiefs, and it's like my brain just was like nothing. I was like, no way he's saying what I think he's saying. It's like Kenneth Walker, it went to the Chiefs. And I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
That was crazy to me. I get he's not Saquon Barkley. He's not, but the Super Bowl MVP didn't get re-signed by the Super Bowl champs. That I was like, I don't even know what to do with that. And yep, sure enough, went to Kansas City, which is such a good fit for them because they have been in need. Just with Isaiah Pacheco looked like the guy for a little bit, and then he very quickly didn't look like the guy last year. And then so it's such a good fit for Kansas City, but I'm like, I understand that you have Charbonnet. I just did not understand how the Seahawks let him go.
Yeah.
That was a big surprise to me.
Yeah, I agree. Because I thought that he was a great fit in Seattle. And he and Zach Charbonnet
the
were-
1-2 punch was
Exactly.
so powerful.
It was, especially because, Kenneth Walker's been a little bit injury prone. And so having the 1-2 really helped him out. And Charbonnet's not really the one you want for a Super Bowl team. And they went out and they signed Emmanuel Wilson, who's really he's really a running back 2. They still have George Holani, who's really a running back 3. But Charbonnet, if you want to run it back, he's not the one you want. Because Sam Darnold has proven himself to be a good quarterback.
Yeah.
But they won that Super Bowl because of their defense.
Absolutely.
Their defense carried him the whole way. Sam Darnold played great. JSN played great. Rashid Shaheed was a game changer. Cooper Kupp, even, washed Cooper Kupp, played great.
Yeah.
But I don't think you want to put the pressure on Sam Darnold
And Zach Charbonnet.
and Zach Charbonnet. Because if the pressure's on them, Charbonnet's not going to perform as well as he and Kenneth Walker together did. So more of the pressure is going to be on Sam Darnold. And I think, we've seen what happens whenever Sam Darnold has all of the pressure to win put on him. You think about, the last game of the season against the Lions last year, and then when they make it to the playoffs with the Vikings, 2 years ago now, I guess. And you can... I feel like defense is one of the things you can never bank on year to year because there's, that's 11 players right there.
Yeah.
If one gets injured, one goes down, that's depth already. That's already liability in your defense. I think that this Seahawks defense is going to be amazing again, but you lose Tariq Woolen, and you lose your DC as well. I mean, he's, the head coach of the Raiders now. That was their OC. Oh, no. Now I'm second guessing myself. Well, Clint Kubiak, Seahawks. He was their OC. Okay. I lied. But Seahawks, defensive coordinator. Okay. Maybe they didn't lose their DC. Yeah, okay. Okay. I'm good. Had to fact check myself there. But my point is, that's just a really surprising move. Maybe they go out and draft a running back because it is a pretty deep running back class. But I don't think you want to use a first, second, maybe even third round pick on a running back whenever you do have Zach Charbonnet already.
Yeah.
But they picked Zach Charbonnet when they had Kenneth Walker already, and I was pretty confused by that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I agree. That was one of the earliest moves too. It was the first day of free agency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was super. It really was a shock to me.
Mm-hmm. And then, but I do like, they let Pacheco go. I really like where he ended up. After the Lions trade David Montgomery to the Texans, the Lions sign Isaiah Pacheco. And I think this is a perfect pairing. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is going to be running back 1 at this point. They're not really going to have, a committee with him and Pacheco. Mm-hmm. Gibbs gets to be the one. He gets to be a dynamic runner, especially in the outside, especially pass catching. This is, I think, where Gibbs is really dynamic, but they have Pacheco who can run hard between the tackles.
Yeah.
And Gibbs can do that. He can run hard between the tackles, and Pacheco has speed too. So they're not just, when Pacheco's in, they're running the ball,
exactly.
But they have the short yardage back, and they have the dynamic pass catching, burst down back right here.
For sure. That very, very good move for the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh no. What do you?
No. You go.
No, I was just thinking about Jalen Waddle.
Yes.
Was that yesterday? Is it 2 days?
That was yesterday, 2 days ago.
It was really, really recent. Broncos trade for Jalen Waddle. That is really. It was really big when I heard that because that's one of the things that complain about with the Broncos is you have Courtland Sutton and there's really no depth past that. And Courtland Sutton is not. I don't know that on almost any other team he would be a wide receiver number 1. I don't think
he's a good 1.5.
Yeah,
he's not a Super Bowl caliber number 1.
No. And so bringing Jalen Waddle in there, that is great. That's great help. But costing a first
Important word.
and a third.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're getting, I don't even know off the top, if you're getting like Justin Jefferson, that's one thing. Jalen Waddle is coming off of also being a number 2. He wasn't the number 1 on the team that you're getting him from. And he's not miles better than Cortland Sutton. If I would, if it were me, I would put them at about the same level.
Okay.
Cortland Sutton and Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle is good. I think he probably will become the wide receiver number 1 throughout this season. But I don't think he's just the guy that's going to change everything. And so I think that the cost that they're giving up for Jalen Waddle, I don't think that was worth it, because you do have other needs, not just wide receiver, that you could get with that first pick, that third pick. That I think it was a pretty high price. So I think Jalen Waddle is going to be great. I think they did fill a hole that they needed, but at what cost? I guess it seems like a first is even just it seems like a first and a third is really high.
Yeah, I somewhat agree with you there, but I think Cortland Sutton is more of he goes out there and he gets the job done receiver. Mm-hmm. Jalen Waddle, I think, is a much more dynamic receiver. Mm-hmm. And, of course, he's been on the Dolphins. He's been on, the past couple of years hasn't been a great team. If you look at Cortland Sutton's stats by year, Jalen Waddle's stats by year, I can't remember what season it was where the Dolphins just had that insane offense, score 70 against the Broncos. He went over 1,000 yards each of his first 3 seasons, caught 6, 8, then 4 touchdowns. He even ran in for a touchdown his rookie year. But a productive receiver, over 1,000 yards, with Tyreek Hill on the team, too, with dynamic runners like Devon Achane. If you look, I got to pull it up, Cortland Sutton stats. He's been in the league a little longer. He was on one hand, Jalen Waddle, 6th overall pick. Cortland Sutton, 4th round pick. Mm-hmm. He has also topped over 1,000 yards 3 times, but has been in the league almost twice as long. Yeah. His first 4 seasons, 4, 6, 0, or 0 doesn't count. He only played in 1 game. So full seasons, 4, 6, 2, and 2. He had 1 season with 10 touchdowns, but if you look at I want to look at yards per target. Their target share is pretty similar, but I don't know. Even just this may just be my perception of them. I wanted to pull up a fantasy points comparison between the two. I guess my point is I see Jalen Waddle as a little bit more of a dynamic receiver, and having him and Cortland Sutton together, I think is what's really going to help you out. Because you're, again, a pretty defensive team. You cut Dre Greenlaw. Yeah. So you're going to have to work through some new stuff. But I do also agree with the price. It was for 1st and a 3rd. And a 4th round pick swap, but who cares? A 1st and a 3rd. But on the other side, what are the Dolphins doing? We signed Malik Willis. We're paying him $20 million a year for 3 years. And we cutting Tyreek Hill, trading away Jalen Waddle. Who's your wide receiver 1? And Devon Achane is just here, all right, guys, help me out, please. Yeah. And it is a deep wide receiver class, but you're signing kind of an experimental quarterback and then sending his help away. Exactly. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it seems like they're wanting to rebuild, and they're not doing it in the best way. And because I feel like they should have started this rebuild process a little bit ago. But then again, you just don't know. It's hard because it's Tua was the guy for a little bit, and you had Tyreek. When you have Tyreek and what Tua could have been before all the head injuries, it's you're not really, and Devon Achane, you're not in a place where oh, we need to rebuild. But after the last 2 seasons, it seems like you need to start thinking about that, especially after last year. And it's like they're doing it, but I don't know that they're doing it in the most efficient way. And so it is kind of interesting. Like I don't see the Dolphins having a good season.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And it's just like they're not. It doesn't seem like they're setting themselves up for success. And if they are, like having the mind of like, okay, let's kind of start from scratch and rebuild this, I think they're not doing it in the most efficient way. So yeah, it's a very interesting situation for them. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. And this first round, there will be between 3 and 6 wide receivers taken, I think. There's 3 wide receivers, Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, that are clear-cut first-rounders. Mm-hmm. And then you have Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper, who are like kind of fringe first, second rounder, kind of like what Keon Coleman was last year or a couple years ago. And then the Dolphins, they have pick 11, their own pick, and then I'm pretty sure they get number 30, what the Broncos pick was. So that's a good range for, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson could fall to them at that first one, or they could get, Casey Concepcion, who I think would be very Dolphins type, although they got a new regime now. So who knows how that will all turn out. But
sure.
A wide receiver will definitely be one of those 2 picks.
It has to be.
In the draft for them.
Definitely. Thinking of the draft, and then I know you have a couple things on here, and it was super interesting to me. Were you wanting to talk about the combine at any point in this episode?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the combine, it was actually crazy how many times I kept seeing, on Instagram that pops up with all the combine things, Arkansas pop up, just like you have down. I was fairly surprised because I had people names in mind that I was wanting to look for, and it was I kept seeing Arkansas players pop up, probably because I'm in a room full of people. I'm surrounded by people from Arkansas, so they're sending me stuff, and they're always telling me, oh, this happened, and because I have a podcast, they think I'm the number one genius in football. So what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I'm like, I that's super cool. It was really interesting seeing just a team that is very either inconsistent or just not good, really producing some very talented guys. Mm-hmm. It's been a year, or maybe not a year. Honestly, after football, it's been a year for Arkansas. Basketball, track, the combine. They won two SEC championships back to back. They won the track championship. That was a national championship. And then indoor track national championship, and then basketball championship back to back. Had a great combine a little bit earlier than that. And going into March Madness, looking good. It's been now that I'm here in Arkansas, surrounded by people, I'm like, okay, these aren't just a bunch of bums. Hey, Arkansas's got some athletics. But it really was interesting just seeing the production in the combine, because it really wasn't a big combine, I didn't think. There weren't too many things. We've had combines in the past where it's it seems like there's so much, so many things change, so many things happen.
Yeah.
Where you're oh, this guy just shot up their draft stock, or this guy just plummeted. And it's I didn't really hear that much. The gist of what I heard was, oh, it's interesting that all these Arkansas guys are doing really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Because Arkansas, they obviously won 2 football games last season. They lost to a Group of 5 Memphis team. But they were top 15-ish in offensive yards per game.
Wow.
And they won 2 football games. They're right around Notre Dame, almost made the playoffs. Georgia Tech almost made the playoffs. Texas Tech made the playoffs. James Madison, Oregon, Indiana, all 3 of those teams made the playoffs. Baylor, whose quarterback was college football passing leader for a lot of the time, they had 454.8 yards of offense per game. But a lot of that got overshadowed by how terrible their defense was.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, Taylon Green, second fastest quarterback 40 ever. And it's one, that's amazing. But okay, who's number 1? Number 1 is Michael Vick.
Yeah.
So
that's a hard guy
fastest
to beat.
Quarterback, fastest 40 than any quarterback except Michael Vick. And their running back, fastest 40 by running back this year. Taylon Green this season wasn't a very polished passer, but almost 3,000 yards passing and 777. I think it's a pretty lucky number yards on the ground.
And he's an athlete. He's so athletic,
very dynamic,
very athletic guy.
I think he'll kind of be like a Jalen Milroe, where he'll probably go late day 2 at this point. Is my assumption, and some team will try and develop him, see if they can throw him in some packages. Just some wildcat options his first couple years, and maybe he can develop into a starter. I don't see him being there, but he proved himself to be an athlete. And Mike Washington, at this point, if you look at like kind of consensus big boards, he is the number 3 running back. Obviously, there's Jeremiah Love, one of the best running back prospects we've had in years, and Jadarian Price, the other Notre Dame running back. Mike Washington is right behind them, above anyone else in this draft, even the Penn State running backs. Made a lot of money for themselves those couple days.
It would be very interesting. This is this is on topic, but it's kind of a rabbit hole that we don't have to go down. But I would be interested in if because this is all this is speed. This is speed-based acceleration. If just because I just think about this because Arkansas has some of the best track coaching. Arkansas either wins or is in the running for the national championship in track every year. And it would be interesting to me to see if there's some coaching that happens before the draft where they ask some of the Arkansas track coaches if they can help some of these players just with the speed. That would be really interesting to figure out.
Yeah, I agree. That would be really interesting. I was trying to find what other NFL quarterbacks are the same kind of height and weight as Taylon Green, because he is 6'6", pretty tall for a fast quarterback.
Yeah,
and 224. So more, more of a speed guy than a big guy. You think about Josh Allen, who's I think 6'6" and 250. Cam Newton, 6'6" ish, I think, and 270 something. Let me see what NFL quarterback is 6'6", 225, and it pulls up Taylon Green. Trevor Lawrence is 6'6". I don't know how what his weight is.
I would imagine maybe he's probably a little heavier.
But I'm just a bigger guy, and it's pretty easy for NFL players to put on weight. Trevor Lawrence is actually even lighter than that. And so think about, similar build as Trevor Lawrence, but more speed. I think that, which is funny. I would have thought Trevor Lawrence is more. I see him.
I would have thought he was a little
I feel like
bigger.
there was a time or two in the playoffs where he just laid down his shoulder.
Yeah. He's an athlete, passionate guy though. That is quite the build. Imagine, and with that kind of speed, imagine you have an open field tackle against a QB, but he's not 6'2". This quarterback that you got to make an open field tackle on is 6'6", 200. What did you say? 225 pounds.
224.
224.
But you're in the NFL.
You're in the NFL, and
he has put on some weight.
And he has the second fastest 40 ever.
Yeah, that's a good point. I had forgotten that point that he, with that height and weight, had the second fastest.
Because that's not the kind of that just seems, with that height, you would think just for speed you would want more weight, I don't even know. Whew. That's such an odd build.
Trevor Lawrence is 40, unofficial at Clemson's Pro Day, 4.6. So that's about 0.3 seconds, which isn't that much, or in the grand scheme of things, not that much, but with 40 times. So that's a big difference.
Big difference.
And he's known as an athlete. He ran a lot in college, I feel like. And then you got Taylon Green.
Yeah.
So I was at lunch today talking about how Texas is the best state. And then here I am talking about an Arkansas quarterback. What am I doing?
What are we doing, guys?
Oh, man.
We got to give Arkansas a little bit of love.
Yeah,
'Cause, like, we just know, we walk around campus knowing that we're from the better state.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to give a little bit of love to
Yeah,
Arkansas.
we're going to clip that right there just so this episode gets the most views.
Exactly.
Hey, there's a lot of teams that need like a quarterback to compete or a quarterback to, I don't know. Think about the Jets. Like, Geno Smith might last a couple years for you.
Maybe.
Jalen Green could be helpful for you.
Yeah.
Not that I'd wish the Jets on anyone.
On anybody. I wouldn't wish the Raiders on. All the teams that need quarterbacks, I don't want
Steelers.
quarterbacks to go there. Steelers, you got a shot.
Yeah.
Steelers, you got a shot.
Aaron Rodgers is playing hard to get right now.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers playing hard to get.
That's, I think, the biggest free agency moves that I think we've covered. Because it's March, I think we should end with a little special shout out to the biggest sport in March. You know, it's NFL's quiet season, like it's between the Super Bowl and the draft.
Sharing the spotlight.
Yeah. I want to highlight, like, I think 9 years ago, the Colts signed Mo Alley Cox, a VCU basketball player. And he has now been on their roster for 9 years, being a productive tight end. They just signed another basketball player, Carson Tout, who played for Notre Dame and has never played football at any level. Any level. And they just signed him to I think they called it a developmental deal.
Wow.
And I mentioned this last season, but my favorite bracket to make, I know a little more about basketball, so I think I have a pretty good bracket going for me. Trying to pick a few upsets, you know. But my favorite bracket to make is, if this was football, who would win? And I realize I'm not the only one that does this, because I see on Instagram, like, all of the sports pages I follow doing this, or the football pages doing this now. But there would be some pretty fun games in here. There's some, the first round, that just neither of these schools have football teams. Think about St. John's and NIU, or UNI, Northern Iowa. There's others, like Louisville and South Florida. I think it'd be a pretty fire first-round game.
Yeah, that would be a good
North
game.
Dakota State and Michigan State, I think it'd be a pretty fire game. UCLA and UCF, they're pretty bad teams, but they're pretty evenly matched. You got second-round UConn with Joey Fagnano and UCLA. Final four, you got Miami and Georgia on one side, and then Ohio State and Texas A&M on the other side. And I'm throwing Miami over Ohio State in the championship for basketball. So, who knows? Anything can happen. But I feel like I know at least a little bit whenever I'm making my picks, because you know, it's football.
It's football. You got a handle on it. And just imagine when one of those hits.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine.
Yeah,
if something crazy happens.
Yeah. Yeah, Florida gets beat by Iowa. Michigan gets beat by Georgia. Duke gets beat by Ohio State. Although I have Arizona going to the Elite Eight. So 1 seed makes it there if your football team was playing. But I think those are the biggest headlines we got.
Yeah,
We're trying to give what we can in this, slower season, because there's the Super Bowl, and then there's like a week of the combine, and then silence, and then there's a week of free agency, and then there's silence. Then we got the draft.
Yeah.
In just over a month, which is, as some of y'all know, my favorite part of the off season. Even more interesting than some. Well, maybe not. It's the football season. You can't say that.
Yeah.
But
there's some games. Yeah.
Some of those Thursday night games, I'd rather watch the draft.
The draft is better entertainment than that. No, but it is so fun. Like those first, the first round of the draft, even really like the first 15 picks. Like, you're on your seat, and you never know. Like, I just remember watching the draft the year that C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson got picked. And it's like
traded up.
The trade up. Like, me and my little brother Rocky lost our minds, and it's like at that point I didn't really have much stock behind the Texans anyway. Like, it wasn't like I was I'm a Texans fan from Texas, but like I wasn't like I'm like, oh my gosh, I love the Texans.
Y'all had nothing to root for.
We had nothing. Yeah, we had nothing to root for. And I was losing my mind. It's just like the energy that the draft can kind of get you in when something crazy happens, like a trade or somebody picks someone that you never would have thought. The Falcons picked Michael Penix, you know, stuff
Yeah.
like that happens.
Yeah,
and it's like-
exactly.
it's just electric.
You see the GM trying to explain to their new owner
To the new owner,
why
like,
they
what just happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have some good draft stuff coming up. We'll be back in, I don't know, probably 2 weeks.
Yeah, indeed.
Give us a little spring break.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah. You got anything else?
I don't have anything else. I'm excited for the draft. It's always fun to see what teams are making moves in the offseason, and sometimes it's kind of dumbfounding, like this team isn't doing anything. Or this team seems to be
Yeah.
doing terrible things, or it's really it might not be the most exciting time, but it's definitely interesting.
Agreed.
And you can kind of see some thought processes behind some other teams. So it's an interesting thing to be able to talk about and analyze, and I'm glad that we did before we get into some of the real interesting stuff soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Awesome.
But, yeah, that's all I got.
Great. Well, thanks for listening to the Nice Catch podcast. We're here to serve you, our listener, and give you the football content you deserve. If you love football, continue to tune in each episode from the offseason all the way through the playoffs. This is the Nice Catch podcast.